Welcome to Limited Time Only.
I'm Esther.
And I'm Susie.
Limited Time Only is the podcast for anyone who feels there aren't enough hours in their life.
And each week there's a different topic for you to get your ears around.
Featuring chat, comedy sketches and interviews with interesting people.
Limited Time Only is a pick-me-up in podcast form.
The special guest later in the episode is Kate Saxon. This week it's time for Rolling the Dice.
Suze, can we start the meeting now? We've been sat here for 20 minutes.
Sorry, I can't decide which of my Bright Disposition notebooks to use. Do I want to dream big and go for my dreamy navy blue notebook? Or do I want to shine bright with a notebook in luscious bright pink, LTO colours?
They're beautiful, but why have you got 5?
They all made me so happy I had to buy the full range. Plus, I'm down with the company ethos. Bright Disposition is a small family business and each notebook has been designed with love.
Let me have a look.
Here you go.
Oh, a hard-wearing cover. Gorgeous colours. A lovely band to keep them shut.
Yeah.
A ribbon to keep your place.
And top quality paper that my pen glides over and doesn't seep through. I think I'm in love. OK, I'm feeling sunny, so I'm going for the sky blue. We can start the meeting now, Esther. Esther.
Oh, sorry. I'm just on Etsy ordering stationery from Bright Disposition. There's an LTO discount code for 10% off. I'll be with you in a mo.
No rush. I'm stroking my notebooks.
Bright Disposition, uplifting gifts to encourage and inspire you. Available from Etsy. And for LTO listeners, there's 10% off. Just use the code LTO10 at checkout. If Susie and Esther haven't bought them all already. Mum, there's another big box from Bright Disposition here.
I've rediscovered a lovely, lovely ink pen. I think it's a Parker. That I've got, and it wasn't working for a very long time, and I've somehow managed to get it working again, and it's absolutely beautiful, and I'm using it on my Bright Disposition notebook.
Oh, that's lovely.
It's a sleek black pen with a gold nib, which is very ornate.
It's lovely.
I think I might have chosen it. I think I might have bought it myself. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
And I have been using it with my Bright Disposition notebook.
Gorgeous.
And it just glides across the page. And I did want to say about, because we have got an advert for Bright Disposition in our episodes now, because Bright Disposition is a fantastic small business, UK business based in Leamington Spa, and their notebooks are gorgeous and so hard wearing, and the paper is genuinely quality. And if you use a fountain pen, it's so hard actually. I don't know if you find this, Esther. You get a notebook, you think, oh, this is nice, I'll use my fountain pen, and then it just seeps through and expands on the page and you can't, it just looks crap. But Bright Disposition isn't like that. But I wanted to say that we, on Limited Time only advertise companies that we believe in and believe in their products. And currently, our small businesses who we have links to and know their products and like them, we wouldn't ever advertise something that we didn't think was worth advertising.
Because we have very high morals.
We do have high morals, and also we have very talented, we know talented people who are making wonderful things that aren't in the high street shops. And so Sweet Theatre, which Sally Wood runs, is a small chocolate business, and their products are so lovely and make brilliant presents. So if anyone wants to buy me something, you know what to get me. And Bright Disposition, tiny business in Leamington Spa, run by Alex Wiltshire and her husband. And the products are just absolutely brilliant. And there is a 10% off, isn't there, Esther, for Bright Disposition?
There certainly is, Susan.
LTO10. And if you go to Etsy and look for Bright Disposition and then at checkout put in LTO10, you'll get 10% off their products. I mean, I can't recommend the notebooks high enough because I'm running out. My one's currently running out, so I'm about to buy another one. But yeah, I don't think I've ever used quite such a nicely papered notebook.
Gorgeous. They're gorgeous.
Gorgeous. So, and yes, and hopefully we'll have more products to advertise. I mean, I would like to advertise, just putting this out there, Esther,
okay,
Nuisance Drinks.
Oh, yes.
Who I've talked about before and put things on Instagram. Fantastic non-alcoholic little cans, and they're made with kind of botanicals, really. It's delicious. Things like nettle and elderflower, rhubarb and ginger. But they're really nice, and that's another kind of relatively small business based in London. And I like Beauty Pie. I know they're not very small.
They're not small, but
I mean,
but you just
like their stuff.
Just want their stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and Lacrids by Bulow. I mean, I didn't actually fully appreciate that Lacrids means licorice.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I worked that out because I did buy some other licorice, and it was also called Lacrids, and I was like, Oh, yeah.
Ah.
I've made a link. I've learnt a word in Danish.
Lakrids.
Yeah. So Lakrids by Bulow. We're open to advertising partnership there.
You can pay us in licorice, to be honest, guys. We're perfectly happy with that.
No, I mean, totally. Beauty Pie, absolutely happy to be paid in beauty products.
Me too.
And what
Definitely.
What about, have you got any
I would like to support anybody that's got any nice coastal properties around the UK and Europe. Anybody that has a nice restaurant. Anybody that makes nice bags and shoes, or like nice little nice things.
Nothing specific there, Esther. But I mean, I think we are
nice
generally, Esther and I, and limited time only, are open to free holidays. Abroad or at home, and we would, can review.
Yes.
I mean, it would be favourable. I'll say that.
Yes.
And any I don't know, sports cars. Sometimes Ferraris need a bit of a, they need a leg up, don't they?
Yes, yes, they do.
I'd like a mini. I'd love a mini at one of the new minis.
I'd like a mini, and I'd like a little convertible car or a vintage car. I'm open to a vintage car.
Yeah. We can test drive them. We're perfectly competent drivers, and
happy to have one if that helps.
We can take one off your hands if it's clogging up the clogging up the garage. Beep beep. Okay, I don't know what's happened to me today, but maybe we need to be sponsored by a psychiatrist.
Maybe, yes, sponsored by
Mental
Dr.
Health.
Freud.
Yes. Mental health services. Oh, God, we need to sponsor bloody mental health services. But I don't think we can get into that.
No.
Let's leave the NHS for now. Not leave it, though, guys. We're not going to leave the NHS. Can I just put that out there?
Let's just put tons of money into it if we can.
If we can. If we make any money from limited time only, I'll chuck the NHS a few bob.
Yes, me too.
And some Lakrids.
Oh, Jim, this has got to be the most romantic holiday I've ever been on. Fancy bringing me all the way out here to Mauritius. I'm so lucky.
Nothing's too good for you, Sandra. We've got to celebrate our 30th wedding anniversary in style.
The food's amazing. The sea's amazing. You're amazing. I feel like a giddy teenager again.
Me too, my love, me too.
In fact, do you know what I was thinking we could do?
Oh, Sandra, my love, I've been waiting for this. Pass me one of my pills.
Shall we have a quick game of Monopoly?
Monopoly?
I bought it with us.
To Mauritius?
Well, you've got to be in it to win it.
Monopoly? Sandra, last time we nearly needed couples therapy.
Nonsense! Just because you accuse me of being a capitalist tyrant.
You built hotels on Mayfair and Park Lane, Sandra. We'd only been playing for 5 minutes.
Well, that's what you have to do in business. You've got to think like Theopaphetus and all the other dragons in the den.
Like Ebenezer Scrooge.
It's called strategy, Jim. What about Scrabble?
You brought that too.
Nice and civilised.
Civilised? You made up words like jizzling, brufty and flawable.
They're perfectly cromulent words, Jim.
From the prestigious Sandra Dictionary.
Oh, fine. How about Cluedo?
Last time we played Cluedo, you convinced me the butler did it. There isn't even a butler in it, Sandra.
I'm just that good.
Bloody hell. Look at all the games you brought in that extra suitcase. I thought you brought a load of clothes. Have I paid an extra £100 for all of them?
I'm an aspiring entrepreneur, Jim. Games keep my brain functioning at a high level, like a Deborah Meaden or an Alan Sugar.
All right, let's play Connect 4. Even you can't make that contentious.
We'll see. I've got a strategy for that too, you know.
If you say flawable again, I'm flipping the table.
Flawable!
That's it. We're buying a jigsaw puzzle.
I bought one with this Theopaphetus' face. I bet I can finish it first. Happy anniversary, my love.
Bingo.
So, Esther, this week we are talking all about games and gaming.
Yes.
Gaming, not gay men or gay women. But maybe we should.
Or gay men called Ming. Ming the Merciless.
A happy Ming vase. I don't know.
Ming the Merciless was very gay.
Okay, so I don't know where we've gone immediately.
We've gone to Flash Gordon. That's where we've gone.
I go to Flash Gordon anytime. I mean, let's forget about the games talk. Let's talk about Flash Gordon.
The Leader of the
He's
universe.
saving every one of us. It's probably the greatest film of all time, isn't it? Peter Duncan sticking his hand down a terrifying tunnel and getting his hand ripped off.
I forgot Peter Duncan was in it.
And I met Peter Duncan a couple of years ago at the Edinburgh Fringe. Finge?
The Edinburgh Finge. The Edinburgh Minge.
The Edinburgh Minge.
The Merciless.
Obviously Blue Peter, that was his big thing. And
yes.
he was our Blue Peter presenter for our childhood. But mainly I just love him because of that 2-minute section at the beginning of Flash Gordon.
I really don't remember it. I'm going to have to revisit it. It's a long time since I've watched Flash Gordon.
Maybe I'll find the clip and I'll put it in the show notes, everybody. So you can look at the show notes, because nobody reads the show notes. You know how long I spend writing those show notes, Esther?
Get over it, Suze.
No, I can't get over it. No, I've even put at the bottom of the show notes, if you've read to this point, send me an email and I'll send you a prize. Have I had a single email? Have I?
Well, they're very good. They're very witty.
They're very witty.
You've got an hour to kill. Go back over the last 3 series. No,
Yes.
go back over the last 3 series and read Susie's, because Susie writes the show notes on the Apple app or whatever it is, and goes back and she read through them.
Apple app.
It's Apple app.
app.
Anyway, let's talk about games.
Okay,
Because,
sorry. I did go off on one there, but do read the show notes. Okay, if I said to you, this was probably, I have a few favourite board games.
Okay.
But I'm going to get you to hazard a guess what this is. If I said, okay, is it a man? Has he got red hair?
Guess who?
Yeah.
Oh, I always think of Philip with his little half moon glasses
Oh.
and his white curly hair.
Yes. I think Bill looked a bit odd.
Bill, yes.
Slightly starey eyes.
Yes. He'd be on a register somewhere.
I think they all are. I think all the men were very suspicious looking. And all the women were like either Stepford wives or kind of, plain Janes. I think it's been outed as very sexist, that game.
Yes. It's a good game, though.
It's a good game, and it has an end. And that is my beef with a lot of board games. A game of Guess Who is not going to go on for much longer than about 10 mins.
Oh yeah, and even that's with
That's pushing
particularly slow people. Yeah.
Well, maybe 5-year-olds or whatever.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
But
yeah.
Other games, they might go on for absolutely hours, or just never end.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
So yeah, guess who gets my vote?
Guess Who's very good. It's quick, it's succinct. You get in, you get out. You've had the thrill. You're done.
And you get to flick things over.
Yes, you're allowed to flick. Yeah. It is a lot of fun. I do like Guess Who. That is high for me. I think one of my favourites is Cluedo, because I love solving a murder and a problem.
You're a sleuth.
I'm a sleuth, and I usually win at it. I'm very good.
Yeah.
I do like Monopoly, but that's because I win. And when I play Monopoly, I'm very assertive, far more than in real life. I usually buy everything very quickly, and I usually win. We played it actually a couple of months ago on a rainy afternoon. Actually, I think we played it on Mother's Day because it was raining, and the family said, "What do you want to do? Because we can't do a national trust or anything." And I said, "Let's play Monopoly." I didn't get dressed all day. It was delicious. Anyway, we sat around the table. We played Monopoly. And my son kept saying, I can't buy anything because I know my money's gone and I've got to save it to go round. Yes. And I said, no, you'll never get anywhere if you hoard the money. You can't just save the money. It's just still going to go. Do you know what? He ended up winning. He bought stuff and then he won. And it was between me and him. But I like that because there's no real risk. So you can be like, a Trump type figure.
Kind of
just go for it.
Yeah, well, you go for it. Well, I'm probably more like your son. You've educated now, but I would be like, I don't want to part with my money. But also, it goes on forever. It does. Forever and ever and ever and ever.
Yeah,
and it's frustrating.
Yes, it does go on for a long
so
time.
Much? Well, capitalism on a board game.
Yes, well, we usually play the Friends version, so then I will buy like the Central Perk and stuff like that.
Oh, well, that sounds a bit more friendly.
We've got a Stranger Things version as well.
Oh,
but the thing we play the most in our house, and I've always got a pack on me, is cards.
Oh yeah.
We play Shithead, which is a brilliant game.
I like a bit of Shithead.
We called it Poo Head when the kids were little.
There's another one called, I don't know if it's the same as Shithead, but I don't know if I can say this. Dutch Bastard.
I've never heard of that, but I want to play it instantly.
I don't know if it's the same. I can't remember, but it's definitely a card game. Isn't that rude?
I'm just writing down Dutch bastard, but I'm writing it in a way that I'm hoping
sorry.
no one thinks I'm being quite racist.
I know. I don't know what. I can't remember. My brain doesn't work very well.
Please make sure you're in the correct carriage. Monopoly players should be in first class, unless you've only got properties on Old Kent Road, in which case you'll be asked to move to second. Cluedo players should be in the dining carriage with the candlesticks, and for those people wanting a bit of peace, the solitaire in the quiet carriage. Risk players can be found on top of the train, but they won't have finished reading the instructions before we reach our destination in 6 hours. Thank you.
I play a game called Floating Cards.
What's that?
Which is basically rummy.
Oh yes,
except you don't. With rummy, do you put all the cards down in front of you?
It's 7, isn't it? So no, you don't. So it's 4 of one and 3 of another, isn't it?
Right. Well, with floating cards, you can put them down on the table. It's much more involved, I think, than rummy.
Yeah.
You get to play with other people's cards, and you have what's called a floating card, which changes on each round. Starts as the ace is floating card, and that card can be any card. So if you had 2 2s and an ace, you could put them down as a 3.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, I've never played.
But then it can be stolen. It can be taken by somebody else. So it's. But if you're left with it at the end and it counts for 21 points, so you don't want to be left with it at the end. I'll teach you how to play that. It's good. It's a good one.
Yeah, do, because I love a card game and I'm quite good at cards. I tend to have quite a lot of luck with cards. But my husband and I play backgammon quite a lot, and he is the jammiest bastard you have ever met, because I can be winning and we get to the last bit, and do you know what? He will roll double sixes. Like, he will always roll a double six when he needs it.
Take him to the casino
and
wheel him out.
Oh my God, that's such a good idea. We were playing backgammon last week, and he went, oh, that is a bit ridiculous, because he rolled sort of 2 or 3 double sixes on his last goes, and I was definitely going to win, and it makes me so angry. It's so angry, because I was like, I was going to win that, and then you'll go double six, double
and
five.
That's not skill, is it? There is zero skill.
He clearly did.
He's just rubbish.
He clearly did something very good in a past life to be blessed with the dice.
No, you should definitely take him down the tables. Get him on the spinny ones where you have to throw the. Yeah, I think I'd get far in a casino. Can I play the spinny game, please? Can I have a pound's worth of tokens?
Oh my God, talking 2p slots, I am. Oh
yes,
my
please.
God, I am like a woman possessed on the 2p slots. I spent £15 last year on Herne Bay Pier, getting my kids...
in 2 pence pieces?
Getting my kids these... What were they? Oh, little rubber ducks. Ian said, we could have gone to bloody Poundland and bought them a rubber duck. I was like, no, it's the game. I will get these ducks.
Well, when my granny and grandpa, my dad's parents, lived in Leven in Fife, which is on the coast, about 30 half an hour from Edinburgh, and they had the traditional kind of slot machine building. It was very tame, really, but yeah, we used to spend hours there in the holidays. But I'd only seen it recently on telly. Apparently, it's been running for like 20 years. The game where it's just people playing that on a massively big scale, like they're borrowers.
Isn't that the one Ben Shepherd presents?
Yeah.
I can't think what it's called.
What the hell is this? We're watching someone play a 2p slot machine like they've been shrunk down. Yeah. And this is entertainment, is it?
And that's I've never watched a whole episode of one of those.
Because
but I've
why
caught
would
5.
you?
But I thought exactly the same. And then it was on in the background, and I was weirdly drawn in. It was like some weird, like I couldn't take my eyes off it.
Well, it's because you're addicted to the 2p slot machines, Esther.
Yeah,
I mean, we've established this.
I think I've come to realise in about the last 10 years that I am actually fantastically competitive, but I like a game. I like having to think and work it out.
Do you like a pub quiz?
Oh my God, seriously,
I love a pub quiz.
I got into an argument at a school pub quiz with the guy that was running it because we were on a team, me and some of my school mum friends, and we were winning, and there was this final question, and they said, if you get this question right, you double your points, and if you get it wrong, you'll lose them. And it was a question about when smoking was banned in New York. And I knew the answer from Sex and the City. They said, is it this year or this year? And I was like, Carrie Bradshaw was still smoking in bars in 2001 or whatever. So we put the answer down, and then we went, and then they said, no, wrong answer. And then I Googled it, and we were right, but they wouldn't let us have the point. And I went up, and oh my God, I mean, I must have looked like a bloody mad woman. I was stood up there going, no, I think you'll find it's this. And it was just banned here at that point, but it wasn't banned in bars. And I got really like a huge sense of injustice.
It is, yes. I was going to say, because, and I know you feel strongly about justice, as do I. I would have been exactly the same.
Yes.
I think that's a travesty.
It is a travesty.
Let me at them. Where
Absolutely.
are they?
I mean, on the Monday morning, I did think everyone must think I'm a mad woman on the plane, because I was getting I was apoplectic about it. I was so bloody angry about it. Apoplectic.
Oh,
I don't
apoplectic,
know.
yes.
Apoplectic. I was absolutely, because. And one of my friends was like, just let it go. And I was like, no, if we let these things go, we let everything go. This is the
Because it's wrong.
It's
absolutely, it's categorically, factually incorrect.
Thank you, Suze. Thank you for having my back.
What's the point of having a quiz? And then the answers are false.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm furious for you.
And we lost, and you know what? That was about 10 years ago.
You've not let it. No, I understand. I fully understand. I mean, I'm not going to let it go now. It's going to bug me for the rest of my life. Thanks very much.
Yeah. When I walk past that dad that was running it, I still get angry about it now. I still there's a voice inside my head that calls him all the names under the sun.
Well, he's frankly a dick. Anyway,
but
I think my love of pub quizzes means I like Trivial Pursuits. But I haven't played that for a long time, because the problem with Trivial Pursuits is it's fields of knowledge, isn't it? And I think you can't play it with kids. And then I think, well, shall I get the children's one? I think, well, no, because I won't know any of the answers to that. Because it'll be all about what CBBC programme, and B will know all the answers and I won't have a clue. So it's difficult. I need to wait till they're older, and then I'll get the traditional general knowledge.
Do you watch Richard Osman's House of Games?
I have not yet seen this programme.
Oh my God, you will love it. I love that. I'm really good at it.
Okay.
But there are lots of questions, and they're not all general knowledge. They're more sort of like you piece words together, or you do things, and it's different rounds. And we love that show in our house, and I'm really good at it. And I'm quite quick, so I can see the pattern really quickly, and I'm straight in there. And
I mean, you're bigging yourself up here, Esther. I think
I am. I'm crap at backgammon. We've established that, so you know.
You're not lucky, but you are very intelligent.
I wouldn't say I'm intelligent. I'm just good at games.
Okay.
And I'm competitive. So if we've got this thing that we do, we go over the fields through the summer with some friends of ours, and all the kids go in on a Friday night, and the fields where we go are very empty, and we take fish and chips, and then we end up playing cricket at the end of the night, like a cricket or a rounders. I am so, come on!
Yeah.
But I love it. That's what I love. I love the sort of the team stuff, and you know, like I used to be not quite good, but heavily invested in like netball and hockey and stuff like that. Always defender, but because I would always be too nervous about going for an attack. But I can bloody defend if you want me to, and I'm so in it, and I will protect my team. So I wouldn't say I'm brilliant at any of these things, but I am lucky with cards.
Got the right attitude.
Well, I've got the right attitude.
Yeah, yes, that's it.
Got the right attitude.
So these are all team pursuits, although some of these can obviously board games kind of on your own there. What's your favourite solo game? I mean, there is that, but solo pursuit, I might call that. But
solo pursuit, relaxing
solo game.
Pursuit. As a solo game, I'll play solitaire on my phone, and I do like a Wordle, and also at Christmas I had some books of Myrtle, which I really enjoyed, have you heard of Myrtle?
No, I'm just trying to work out what it might be.
So it's solving a murder, and you've got so many goes to solve it, and you've got to work out, so it's like Cluedo and Wordle merged together.
Okay, yes, it's your ideal combo.
Exactly, so I was sat up the corner with a pencil, working it out. It was quite taxing initially on my brain. It was some of them are really hard, but probably something like that. What about you?
Well, I do like a game of patience or solitaire, but I suppose I played Wordle for about, I don't know, a month, and then I just got sick of everybody in the WhatsApp group emailing and just go, I got it in 4, I got it in 3. I don't care. I don't care. I'm deleting you. But I like things like when I was a kid, I used to love hitting a ball off the back wall of the house.
Yes,
the tennis racket.
Yes,
for hours
yes,
and hours.
yes.
Yeah, or throwing a ball off the wall or bouncing a ball. I mean, I'm thrilled now that my children are old enough to start playing ball games or throwing and being able to catch the ball, because I will play a ball game for hours and hours and hours. So I'm excited about being able to maybe play tennis and stuff with them.
Oh, I love that. I love playing tennis. I'd like to get better at tennis, but like you, when I was a kid, I mean, I was an only child. I have got a sister, but we've got different mums and we've never lived together. But I would go into the garden after tea every night and just throw the ball against the wall and catch it for hours.
Yeah, it's so fun.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
I mean, kids don't do that anymore because they've got screens to disappear into, says Grandma Stanford here. But it was
still so fun. It's give me a ball and I'm happy.
Wow, lucky Joel. And what about, sorry, my mind's in the gutter today. What's your favourite sport, Suze?
Well, it is the king of sports, netball.
Yes.
I actually haven't played for a while though, but I'm hoping to get back into it soon. It's so fun. But I think anything I'm happier holding a ball with my hands than using an implement.
Yeah, great.
Like I always prefer netball to hockey. I like tennis. I do like tennis. Oh dear, Esther's lost it. I like manipulating balls with my palms. No. Oh my goodness.
Smutsville.
Yeah. So netball is fun because it's fast and it's fun and it's non-contact, although there's a lot of injuries.
What position do you tend to play in?
I'm usually attack. I'm wing attack, or sometimes I'll play centre. I can play wing defence as well.
We would be good on a team then, because you could attack and I'm wing defence. That's where I was.
So we'd be playing opposite each other.
But we'd be on the same. If
we're on the same team, then it would.
I'd rather just be on the same team, to be honest.
We'd cross in the centre, but that would be.
Yes, I would rather have your back than have you coming towards me. I think that would be terrifying.
It is, because I tend to scream in a Braveheart manner.
Oh,
no,
yes.
I don't. I'm very nice, and I sort of try and disarm people having a nice little chit chat at the line, and then I've gone the other way. No, it never works. It never works. But yes, that would be my go-to sport.
Yeah. I do miss netball, actually. I would like to play netball. Anything where it's team-based.
You can definitely start again. There will definitely be a team near you. And there's all different levels. I think that's it with all sports now. Actually, if you want to play rugby, there'll be a rugby team.
I don't want to play rugby.
I don't want to play rugby. I have no desire whatsoever.
No.
But, some people might.
Yes.
I would like to take up tennis.
Me too.
Tennis again.
When we were playing, we played tennis a lot last summer, and my husband said to me, "I've got pretty." God, I can't watch how I say. Pretty good eyes on the balls and pretty good at hitting it back. Pretty good
hand-eye coordination.
I'm pretty good at hitting it back.
I'm pretty good at hitting the balls.
I'm pretty good at hitting the balls. I think I could have been like Rafa Nadal. I think I could be now. I was never really encouraged with sport, and whenever we did races at school, I can't run very fast. It's like my hips won't move quickly enough, but I can go for hours. I can run for hours. But if anything team-based, I'm sort of, I'm in there. And I wish I'd done a little bit more sport, I think, really. But when you sort of got when you've got yourself in your head is in a certain category, I'm this kind of person. And then as you get older, you go, actually, I'm probably a lot of things. I'm sure a lot of people would say I am.
It's sad, isn't it? It is sad that you think you're not the type of person that play a sport. I mean, that didn't make any sense. But anyone should and can play a sport. Yeah, I think you are the type of person to play a sport, Esther, and I think you're the type of person I'd like on my team.
Yes, grrr! I'd be like the gnarly dog. That would protect you. I've got your back.
Yeah, you're the defender. The defender.
Yes. And you're the attacker. You can get the ball in the hole because you're very good at manipulating balls.
I'm the little yappy one. And you're the...
I'm the Rottweiler.
Oh, yes, like it.
Like it.
I love a good podcast. And when I find one I really like, I tell everyone I know about it. I grab my phone and I share the podcast with everyone in my address book. And then I post about the podcast on social media. Then I rate and review the podcast. And then I have a warm feeling inside for the rest of the day. Just saying. I hope you're enjoying this episode of Limited Time Only. I know I am. Now, where's my phone?
I don't even know if you can tell us, but what are you working on at the moment?
I am working on video games at the moment, but as is always the way with the video games, the confidentiality is so huge. Not allowed to tell you anything, so that's
That's a dead end.
not great for podcasts.
We'll have to sort of Darren Brown you and see if we can get something out of you as we go on.
Today's guest is the fabulous TV, opera, theatre, film and computer games director, Kate Saxon. Starting out as an actress, an unexpected job offer completely changed the course of Kate's career, setting her on the path to becoming a much celebrated director who works across many different mediums. Kate has directed more than 35 theatre productions, including As You Like It, The History Boys and The Secret Garden. On television, she has directed some absolute classics like Call the Midwife, Endeavour and Grace. As a cinematic performance director for games, Kate has worked on BAFTA-winning and nominated titles including Alien Isolation, Mafia III and The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Kate has also directed notable actors including Michael Fassbender, Naomie Harris, Sir Patrick Stewart, Simon Pegg and our favourite, Dame Judi Dench. We talked to Kate about her path into directing, her approach to each different project, her dramatic first day on EastEnders, and how she enjoys being tested by A-listers. Welcome to the show, Kate Saxon.
I've looked and delved into your background, and I'm so interested in how you got into directing. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was an actress, actually, and oh God, it was the Me Too era, I guess, when I was an actress.
Yeah.
So I was in quite a lot of situations where I thought, oh God, I'm too clever for this nonsense. And was starting to question. I liked acting. I just didn't like the industry very much at that time. And then in between my acting work, I used to direct youth theatre and community theatre projects. And it was really that got me into directing, and Jonathan Church, because I was directing some youth theatre in Alaska, in Anchorage, Alaska.
Wow.
Yeah, it was my second year of doing that. And I got a fax. This is really aging me now. It was a fax sent to Alaska Theatre of Youth where I was directing, that was from Salisbury Playhouse, that said, we think you've got Kate Saxon working for you and we really want her to apply for education director at Salisbury Playhouse. And so the artistic director of the Alaska Theatre of Youth showed this to me, and I said, no, they've got the wrong person. And so I faxed back and said, no, I'm an actress. I'm not an education director. You've got the wrong person. And they said, no, you're Kate Saxon, who did this project at the RSC and this project at the Orange Tree and this project, this, there and the other. And they all recommended you. And it hadn't really occurred to me until that point that what I saw as my in-between work when I wasn't acting was building enough for it to be sizable enough for somebody to want me to go for this job. So I thought, oh, okay. So when I went back and I was thinking, well, maybe it's time for fresh leaf, I went down and had this interview and said to poor Jonathan Church in the interview, I won't stay very long because, as I said, I am an actor. I might do it temporarily. It might be interesting for a little bit, but then I'll go. Is that all right? Anyway, they offered it me anyway, despite me saying that and despite me saying I wasn't going to work with primary age children, only secondary and university and adults. And he went, but it's part of the job. I said, well, never mind, give it to somebody else then. Despite all of those things, he gave me the job. And while I was there, offered me a professional show. My first professional show was an adaptation of The Secret Garden, which, funnily enough, I've directed twice. I did it once at Chester as well, but that was a different writer, different adaptation, many years later. So The Secret Garden was my first professional theatre show, and I realised during my time at Salisbury that I didn't want to go back to acting.
Yes.
So that was the beginning of it.
And did you find that, because I have been an actress and then I haven't acted properly for years, and I love the acting and I love the exploration of the stories, and I have directed and I have worked with young people as well, but there's something about the, almost sometimes as an actor you're not part of the creative process, you're not part of that, and you're sort of almost come in as a puppet, do what's required, unless you're really heavily involved in a project. So do you think sort of being able to be so involved, and also that sort of a little bit more stability about, I know it's not completely stable, but far more than you get, and agency and autonomy that you get in that kind of role as opposed to an actor, sort of kept you in it?
Yeah, I don't think I felt there was stability, but certainly agency and being a constant part of the creative process, definitely. When I was an actress, I remember being in rehearsal rooms and thinking, oh, I'd love to stay for that tech meeting they've got this evening about how they're going to solve that design problem and how they're going to like that. And I wonder what they'll do about that script tweak that needs to work. And I realized that my brain wasn't really working like an actress, because I was too fascinated in all those other things. And I've often found that the actors that really fascinate me as a director are actors who are absolutely immersed in that minutiae, but that minutiae of their character, the character's part in that story. They're not often bothered about all those other things that my head was going to. And I realized that actually maybe that was more suited to my personality, and the way I thought, and my creative process was more about the whole picture and the design and the script and the lights and the casting and just all those other aspects that, as you say, as an actor you don't get to be a part of. And I also liked feeling that I could try to instigate my own projects. Of course, it often doesn't work that way as a director. You end up doing the work that comes your way and the routes that your career takes you. I never imagined I would end up directing so many video games. I was brought up in Stratford-upon-Avon and acted with the RSC when I was a teenager. And I thought, when I moved into directing, I'll be doing lots of Shakespeare and classical work. I've done very little Shakespeare and classical work. I've done some. But my career's gone much more on a sort of populist route with video games and television and so on and so forth. It was not how I envisaged my career to be, but I think it becomes, I don't know, you go on different journeys and they become interesting. And I've always liked learning new things.
Yes.
So it's always made sense for me to go, oh, well, that sounds interesting. What shall I find out about that? So
you didn't have a set plan. You've just you started out in theatre and directing theatre. And then how did you end up at video games and television?
Well, getting into theatre directing wasn't easy, because those were the days that unless you were kind of under 24 years old, you couldn't get a bursary or become an assistant at the Donmar, at the RSC or whatever. So I was already too old for all of that, because I was the dreadfully old age of late 20s. So, so nowadays that's changed, because obviously they've become a bit more aware that those sort of processes used to be very ageist. So I couldn't do any of those things. I just had to slog and pitch plays to regional theatres and kind of find my own path and persuade people that would be a great idea to give me these shows I pitched. And then it was my theatre work that built, and I was doing commercial tours and number one touring and things like that, English touring theatre and companies like that. And then my route into video games was because there's a company called Side UK who are outsourcers for a lot of video games, and one of the original owners knew my theatre work well, and so approached me and said, look, games are getting to a point now where developers are sometimes casting namey actors or just spending a lot of money on the actors, whether they're names or not, and feeling they're not necessarily getting the results they imagined. And it was because often at that stage, they weren't hiring directors, they were directing the actors themselves. And obviously some developers are wonderful at directing performance, but some aren't, because it's not their sphere, it's not their world. So the beginning of me doing games was an experiment on behalf of Side, who said, let's see if it works better having you direct a game and see how it goes. So that was my route in there.
Now a lot of games are motion capture, and
Yeah.
have you done, in terms of split of motion capture and purely voice, what's the split there that you've sort of done?
It's constantly been both, actually. So at the moment there's 2 games I'm directing performance capture shoots for that aren't out yet. There's one that got released quite recently, which I was directing the performance capture shoots for as well. And then there's several voice projects. It really does mix, and it depends. Sometimes games are being developed in different countries, and sometimes the mocap's being done in another country entirely, but they might still want to originate the performances in England. So, for example, when I directed The Witcher 2 and Witcher 3, those performances were originated with the voice performances in England, and that was what I was lead director of. The mocap was done back in Poland by them playing in the voice performances we'd already done in England, and then the mocapping to fit, which feels quite an upside down way of doing it in many ways, but that was the way that suited them and suited their timeline and the way they wanted to do it. Obviously, the most fulfilling really is when I'm directing the full performance capture shoot. So games like Alien Isolation and Mafia 3 are ones that I was there right from the beginning on all of the shoots, directing full performance, and then doing the additional work in the voice booth as well.
And in terms of, because I've never done mocap, I've done purely voice, but is it quite theatrical in a way, or is it more like a television experience?
It's not like television, it's theatrical. I liken it more to theatre in the round, because you've got the capture cameras on all 4 sides capturing all the little dots that are moving around on the actors' bodies, and you're not looking at anything else, and you're not having to choose a POV. So the animation team and all these wonderful designers back at the game developers do all of that work later. The work that I would do as a TV director in the edit isn't done by me on a game. My job on a game is to get the performances. So you effectively stage in the round. And for an actor, it's a little bit like being in a sort of early days rehearsal room with really shonky props and set, because you don't want anything getting in the way of the cameras seeing the dots on their bodies, and yet giving their final performance in that environment. So it's always very fun and freeing for performers, I think.
We've got a friend actually who we went to ITV workshop with called Neil Newbon, and he's just been up for a BAFTA for Baldur's Gate, and he's done loads. And I've seen some of his behind the scenes stuff, and actually it does look like a rehearsal room for theatre. How do you, I can't grasp, so my son is 15 and he plays quite a lot of video games. How do you film a story though? Because people can go off in any direction, so I don't get how you know exactly what you're filming.
You film every branch. It depends. Some games are more branching than others. And I have worked with Neil, by the way.
Have you?
That was a capture shoot that I did, Castlevania. He was in that. We had Robert Carlyle as Dracula, voicing Dracula, and Patrick Stewart as Zobek. And yeah, it was great. And Neil was in that. Anyway, but in terms of how you direct the story, I have to understand clearly what's happening in each branch, obviously. And the key thing as well with the game is that really you can only play the truth of the moment, because as you say, the gamer can often then divert the next course one way or another. So for an actor, that can be quite a challenge, just getting used to playing the truth of the moment and that alone, because you don't necessarily know. Well, you certainly don't know what's coming next. And you might not necessarily know what's come before, because, as you say, they might have come on various routes to get to that point in the game. So it's always about the here and now.
That's really fun.
Because it is fun. Yeah. It's really fun. Do you prefer that to television and theatre, or is it just completely different?
No, they're all different. And I've always liked jumping around. I think television and theatre, it's more down to me, obviously, because I can come up with the creative whole. In theatre, that's the most that I can do that, obviously, because you decide on a concept with your designer together and so on and so forth, and everything comes from your take on that text. with television, that's true to an extent, but obviously if I'm directing a episode within a series that's already got an established style, like when I'm directing Endeavour or Grace or Silent Witness or Call the Midwife, whatever it is, it's got its certain style. So you direct within that brief, but then your work on the episodes you direct is your own. And certainly with some of them, like Grace, for example, they very much want you to, each episode is its own book. So they want each director to come in and make their own choices and direct their own film. They're all feature length anyway, and there's no obligation to make it look like anybody else's episode of Grace. So really simple example, in Grace, the police station, the way that we grade it and colour it, it looks completely different one episode to another, but you wouldn't necessarily notice that as a viewer. But in terms of what I enjoy the most, I enjoy all of them. They sort of feed me in different ways, and they all feed each other. I like the efficiency and the speed that I have to work in a game to get the performances, and I like that helps me to use to try to be as eloquent as possible in as short a time as possible on a TV set, for example, so that you're giving the actors time in front of that camera and not spending it all discussing it and setting it up. All those things are always challenges that I think the fast pace of games has helped inform how you can be efficient in TV shoots as well, for example.
Yeah, did you start in television before you did the games?
No, funnily enough, it was around. Yeah. So I started games about 22 years ago. Again, aging myself because I'd been around as a by then.
You were 3?
I was 3 years old. Yeah, and then I started in television, I think about 12 years ago, something like that, 12 or 13. So that came last. And funnily enough, it was actors on performance capture shoots saying to me, "Did you say you don't do television?" I said, "No, don't know anything about how to direct television." They say, "But you're kind of doing it already. You do know that, don't you?" And I said, "No." "Well, I better go and find out." So I went and shadowed on Whitechapel and Silent Witness, and shadowed wonderful directors John East and Daniel Nightheim, who were both very generous with their time and their thoughts and their processes, and then Colin Teague for a long period of time. So it was great. I kind of decided, I'd better go and learn about that as well then. Maybe I'd like to do that. And so found my way into that.
I watched your BAFTA video and you were saying about the fact that your first day on television was on EastEnders, and they said you wouldn't have to do a stunt, and you had to do a stunt. Yeah. Was that just total improvisation panic? Let's just get through this.
Yeah, it was. I remember them saying really distinctly, we're going to throw you in it with your first step, but don't worry, there'll be no stunts. There'll be nothing complicated in your first step. And yes, there was a stunt of a car crash in Albert Square. And yes, it was on my very first day of the shoot. But I had a lovely director called Jenny Darnell with me, because what they do on EastEnders when it's your first block is they give you a mentor director for the first, I can't remember how long for, I don't think it was the whole block, but maybe the first few days shoot or something, so that there's somebody who's experienced on EastEnders that can be there if you have any questions. And it was fun. It was just fun solving it. And it was a fairly simple stunt. It was a car crashing into a pram full of meat. As you do, but yeah, it was quite fun to do it. And by that point, I'd gone on BBC and ITV and Channel 4. Various of the soaps do training courses for directors. Not very often; they're hard to get onto. There's only 4 of us that got on the year that I did it, and they trained us in directing their particular program. And then once we'd finished that training, that's when they gave us all a block to direct. So that was my entry point for television.
It's great that you had that director to support, because it's a bit of a baptism of fire, isn't it? Because I did EastEnders years ago, and it's so quick, the turnaround, isn't it? So there's no time to think. So I'm so glad you had a mentor.
Yeah.
Thinking about things like EastEnders, when often you'd be directing people who've been in it for a while, and they've got these established characters. Is that helpful when it comes to having, because obviously it's quick. I mean, I don't know how quick EastEnders is, but I've got an experience of Doctors, for example, and there's not much sort of emotional backstory, kind of the things you can get in theatre in those situations.
Yeah, I think the best thing for that for me is that I'm a theatre director, and prior to that, an actor. So as soon as I'm on a television set and I give an actor a note, they invariably say, "Oh, oh, you're a theatre director, because they can just tell by the sort of note I'm giving, it's theatre language and it's about intentions and character and whatever. So I think that the most useful thing is that therefore gives me a shortcut into a conversation with the actor that is hopefully helpful. And that means that it's sort of quicker. And that coupled with the games work, funnily enough, because you have to get, particularly when you're directing voice for games, you know, the voice is everything. It's not just the voice is everything. Nothing is conveyed in that animated character unless it's in the voice. So helping actors to come to quick decisions about how to embody something so fully that you can believe it just vocally has been useful as well, in terms of finding routes into solutions that hopefully kind of unearth something or unlock something for the actor. But it's tricky. It's always too fast. There's never enough time on any of these things.
But that's really interesting, that actually having that theatre background and actually being able to probably say something that's far deeper is far more useful to an actor than something quite peripheral that doesn't really help, that can't really change anything. I mean, a lot of directors, I think, people who wanted to go into directing, immediately want to direct TV and film. They want to direct short films and TV programs, and they don't go the theatre route. Do you think that theatre is it's useful for directors to have directed theatre? Do you think that's been a benefit?
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't say, oh yes, I definitely give deeper notes. God knows, you know, my notes.
Well, it gets to the core of something, gets to the core of the character or an emotion, rather than, I don't know.
Hopefully.
Stand here.
Yeah.
Do it better.
Yeah, hopefully. And I certainly think it's helped me. And I certainly think that when I go for TV meetings, the thing that execs are most interested in is my experience in directing actors in theatre. They want to know that I understand script and I understand performance. And theatre directors often ask me about getting into television, and I say, look, it's the skills that you've already got that they will be interested in you, because that's what we bring. So yes, I think so. But I mean, it's tricky. There's often little time, and I often feel for actors on television of any sorts, like the project you did with me, Susie, on Grace. You know, there were so many supporting artists that day and so much to achieve. Very little time to give you notes, and thankfully you were able to just, you know, drop in there and do your thing. So there's always those times as well when you are relying on an actor to be able to bring their exceptional craft and bravery and just dive straight in with very little support, to be honest.
And I think as well, you started out as an actress, so you've got that inner knowledge of how an actor works and how they feel.
Yeah, hopefully it means that I would understand, yeah, exactly those vulnerabilities, or when there's a little bit of extra support needed or whatever. Hopefully, you hope you don't miss those things when you've been through it yourself.
I saw a clip with Gary Oldman online the other day where he said, I think it was Christopher Nolan he was working with, and he said he gave me the best director's note I've ever had. And because he said he doesn't really give you notes, but he got to the end of a scene and he said, let's go again. There's more at stake. And he said, and that was it. That was the note. He said, and I just was like, got it. And I thought, yeah, that's a bloody brilliant note. Really, really good, isn't it? You instantly, that tells you so much. A couple of words, 3 words. Yeah, absolutely. So you were one of the first people to be involved in BAFTA Elevate. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, that was a brilliant experience, actually. Elevate's a relatively new scheme that BAFTA set up for professionals in the industry who felt they had a glass ceiling. They were at a stage in their career where they had a glass ceiling. And the year that I did was the first year of Elevate, and they decided to launch it with female screen directors. And the idea was that we had to all feel we were at our own personal glass ceiling, and we wanted to take advantage of BAFTA's networking and experience and so forth to move past that. And so for me, that was only a few years into me starting directing television. So I'd done EastEnders and Doctors, and I think I'd done A Casualty by then, but I was thinking, okay, so how do I move on from here? And that was why I applied to be on it, and thankfully managed to get on it. They took 15 women, and it was all sorts of female directors. You know, one had done more commercials work, and one had done more music videos work, one had done more film, a few had done more film. Some were more established in television, but felt like they were stagnant in the sort of level they were at. It didn't matter what people wanted to look at. And we all got together and spent time with BAFTA, and they gave us kind of professional speed dating evenings with producers or film execs or whoever, and talks, and even a sort of hands-on day at Pinewood Studios to look at the kit they'd got, like their pool that you can do underwater work and so forth. And so it was really supportive year. And then they've kept in touch with us as well, that they've kept a kind of family type connection with us, and they check in every now and again, or they invite us to events that their new Elevate members are at, you know, networking with them as they've taken on writers since, and producers and actors and all sorts. So yeah, it's a good scheme.
That's good. And in terms of that glass ceiling and women within the industry, do you think that it's got better since then, or is there do you come up against sexism and resistance?
It's really tricky to say, isn't it? Because I don't know if we ever really know if we have, because obviously we're not party to those conversations that perhaps don't give the same opportunities. I'm not a woman who would say I felt very conscious through my career that I was having to push harder because I was female. I never did feel that. I always felt that the industry is a tough industry, and that I had to sort of slog for everything that I did, but it was never given freely. Whether if I was a man, I'd have felt like I hadn't had to slog as hard, not necessarily so. I mean, I'm sure many men feel the same. So I wouldn't say that I've been a direct victim of sexism in that way. There's certainly been times where I've challenged things on jobs that I felt wouldn't have happened if I weren't a female director. And I've not always been happy with how they've been dealt with. I felt like sometimes it's a bit brushed under the carpet. Oh, you'll be fine, you know, kind of approach. So as in kind of bullying behavior or sort of disrespectful behavior from certain people in teams, you know, crew people or so on and so forth, or creative people. So it's tricky, but something I've always done as a woman in those scenarios, of which I've not had many, I've always brought it up, and I've always challenged it and got it out in the open and asked for us all to discuss it and sort it out. And certainly sometimes that has been sexism behind those problems. It never goes down very well when you confront it in that way. But I've tried to do my best to make sure I do speak up if I see things going amiss. Because I always think it's not just, if those things are happening, it's not just me they're happening to, it'll be other people. And they might not feel as able to speak up as I do. So I've certainly spoken up on one TV shoot where I could tell the female actresses were having a bad time with this particular person. And I was too, and I could see the same bullying happening, but only to the women. So I sort of brought that up and tried to tackle it. But it's always tricky, those things. Yeah, it's difficult. And I think over the whole period, the last several years, where the industry's tried to be better at being more inclusive and open to who they might employ, whether that's women or people of disabilities or different sexualities or whatever it is, I think there's certainly been a bit of a pushback, a bit of a, but I haven't made you feel like that. That wasn't down to me. And of course that brings its own problems and its own resentments. So I think it's, funnily enough, it's been a trickier thing to navigate since all of that than it was prior, because that in itself created so many resentments in people that didn't so visibly carry them before.
Yes, and that sort of unwillingness to actually go, let's open doors here, and yeah, that's really interesting.
Do you think as well, sort of being the director now, because I know when I was younger, I wouldn't have said boo to a goose in that kind of situation, but now I'm older and there are women that are younger than me, I very much push myself forward to say no, that's not acceptable, because you're doing it for them. Do you feel that as a director now, that you're sort of top of the ship.
Yeah, I do that. But to be honest, I've always been quite mouthy. I've always had this real massive sense of, if I see an injustice,
Oh yeah,
I have to tackle
Yes.
it. I mean, I am the person that if I see a fight in the middle of Oxford Street, I literally did that once. I got off the tube at Oxford Circus in rush hour, and there were hundreds of people braying for blood, with these two men who were fighting each other on the pavement just by Oxford Circus at rush hour. And I kid you not, there were probably 200 people around them and just urging them on. And these men were really hurting each other. It was nasty. And it was all to do with a cyclist having cut a corner over pavement, and the pedestrian that he cut the corner over took offence and whacked him and was, trashing his bike and so on and so forth. And I was so aghast that all these adults could be so delighted at this horrible fight that I pushed through the whole lot of them and started shouting to everybody, okay, stop, enough now, move away, get to work. It's disgraceful. How dare you behave like this? And literally started behaving like some sort of Victorian school teacher and sort of reprimanded everybody in this big circle and got in between the two men and got them apart and said, now it's enough of this. And gestured to this other man and said, please go and get his bicycle. Please bring it over here. And I'm like that all the time. I've
Brilliant.
always been.
Yeah.
So I think I was like that even when I was young as well. So I don't know if it's necessarily come with it. I probably just feel more batty now that I do it now I'm older.
Yes, you were destined to be a director, I think.
Yes.
Well, it's one thing when I did Grace with you and we were on set, I did notice that not that you were really bossy or anything, but that you were in there and you were well, obviously taking charge because you're the director, but in a way I was kind of surprised because I think I'm so used to maybe quicker things where the director is sat behind the monitor and the first comes on and direct. But I was like, well, actually, this is much better because otherwise Kate would be having to tell the first and the first has to come and tell us. And it's far better just for you to be there telling everybody what to do. And there was about 40 supporting artists. There was 5 or 6 principals, huge crew, but people staring in at the back window who shouldn't be there. I mean, it was a crazy hot day. But you were so calm and kind of had everything in control. And I was just going, oh my God, there's just so much going on. It's impressive.
Yeah, I like busy environments. I like a lot happening. Yeah. That's when I feel I'm definitely a people person. I couldn't write. People often say to me, "What, don't you want to write your own material?" I go, "Oh no, God, the thought of just sitting on my own doesn't appeal to me." But throw me into a room with hundreds of people and kind of make something happen, then I'm like, oh yeah, lovely.
What's your process? How do you, when you get sent the script, what do you do?
Well, funnily enough, my TV directing is very much influenced by my theatre directing, because I know some TV directors who very much storyboard everything, and that's their process. They want to really know every single look before they're there on the day. And I obviously make decisions, but I'm more shot list person. So I'll think about the shots and what I want to achieve to tell the story. But then I also want to know what the actors feel like they want to do. And I want to create it a bit like a theatre rehearsal. And then I go, okay, so that shot that I thought, I don't really need that anymore, but I need this one instead. So I'll problem solve and shift things on the moment, because that's, again, how my brain works from theatre. So it's a bit of a hybrid between the way I'd work in theatre and the way I work on screen in terms of my television. It's very much influenced by both.
Yeah, it's quite collaborative.
Yeah. And I think that's all a good director is, isn't it? Somebody who is open to taking all the best bits of what everybody has to offer. You're in a room and you've got all these creative minds and voices and eyes and, art, and you've got all these amazing skills. And so to not respond to all of that would be ridiculous. I think you want to kind of embrace all of that and go, oh, great. Well, if we take that from there and that from there, then that would be wonderful. And I think the best thing is to be able to do that, but also have the confidence to say, thanks for offering that. I don't want to do that now because I don't think it serves the bigger picture of what we're creating here, but doing that would be wonderful. And that's something I hadn't thought of. So, and that will serve it. So you have to know the story you want to tell very clearly and how you want to tell it. Otherwise, obviously, you could be given influences that just end up giving you a bit of a mush where there's no clear vision. So you have to sort of do that whilst being open to the wonderful things that all the creatives in the room offer you.
Yeah.
You clearly thrive in that environment.
I like it. I can't imagine doing anything else. And
Your
when
face lights up so much when you're talking about it. It's brilliant.
I get all excited. Yeah, certainly when I started directing and left acting, I thought, oh, this is what I was meant to do. And funnily enough, when I was at drama school, I remember the tutor that I liked the most saying to me, you're doing great, Kate. You're good, but you're a director. And I went, no, Janet, ridiculous. I'm not. I'm an actor. And I was so cross with it at the time. And then, of course, years later, I thought back and thought, God damn it, she was right.
Interesting, isn't it? She saw that.
She knew.
What's a project that you haven't done that you'd kind of love? You'd love something quite different in terms of maybe genre or.
Well, I did my assisting work in theatre in opera, actually, not in traditional theatre, because there was a director called Danny Slater who was directing something at Salisbury at the same time as I was directing my first show at Salisbury. He was in the main house, I was in the studio, and he'd snuck in and watched me rehearsing one day without me knowing, and asked me to meet him for coffee after work and said, look, I'm looking for a new assistant in opera, and I snuck in and watched you, and I think you'd be great for opera. Would you consider it? And I said, oh, wow, I know nothing about opera. I'd love to work in an opera rehearsal. You know, like I said earlier, you never know where your career is going to go. So I assisted on several operas and revived Philida Lloyd's Bohème, and had a lovely time working in operas, and thought, because there's such a hierarchy in opera, I thought, well, if I go and direct theatre, which is more my form, then I'm sure I'll be able to come back to opera later and I'll go, look, I'm directing my own stuff now, so have me back. But of course, opera doesn't really work like that. They say, what have you been doing? Theatre, Eastenders. So if I could have, one of the things I'd love to do is I would love to direct an opera that I have originated, that, you know, my own original production of an opera would be wonderful, because that thing about talking about the wonderful creatives in the room, for me as a slight outsider from that world, you know, being in that room with those singers and the répétiteur who can replicate a full orchestra on a piano, and the conductor and all these amazing minds and instruments, that was exciting. And the scale of opera really excited me. You know, I loved when I was reviving Philida's Bohème, you know, jumping on a table when there'd be a huge cast of chorus and principal singers in the room and staging it all. And I loved all of that. So I'd love to do opera in my time, if I still can. And in television, I'd love to originate a new drama, because so far I haven't done that. Everything I've done in telly has been in a program that already exists and has an identity. I'd love to be the person that is fundamental with the execs and the writer to originating the identity of a new drama. And in theatre, funnily enough, I'd love to do some more Shakespeare, because it's in my blood, and I haven't done as much of it as I would like to have done. And in games, I feel like I've been very lucky in games. I feel like I do direct lots of the really exciting games that are out there. So more of the same, please.
Have you got a favourite Shakespeare?
I would really like to do a large production of Measure for Measure. I've only done a small production of it, and I would like to do a large production that involves probably prisoners who've been on the wrong side of the law, who really want to tell that story for a reason. Because the small project I did was working with community who had experiences like that, or had left the school education system. They were young adults, but who'd had tricky times. And I did a very, very edited down version of it years ago with them for Watford Palace. And I was amazed at how impassioned they were about that story and how much they had to say. And so I have this this idea that I would love to bring together professional production with people that have a real need to tell that story, and combine them in a professional show, not in a community show. And so that the professional cast and the people that have been through this sort of stuff in their lives can inform each other. And that, I'd love to do that. I'd love to do Winter's Tale. I've never directed Winter's Tale, and I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah. Oh, yes. They're real goodies. I'm just wondering if now might be a good time to have a couple of audience questions, because we've got a few here, and I was just going to I'll lead on from the sort of theatrical question with a question from Claire Morgan, who I know and you've worked with. And she says, love Kate. And her question is, what is the secret to drawing a great performance from an actor? Does it differ between theatre, TV, film, video games? You kind of answered that. But the secret to drawing a great performance from your perspective?
From my perspective, I think, and this is going to sound so obnoxious, I hope it doesn't sound too obnoxious, but I think you sort of have to be a little tiny mini psychologist, and that every single actor might need a slightly different way of being directed to every other actor. So you have to be observant and receptive and make quick decisions about what you think that actor in the room with you needs, and then try to provide that. So I don't think there is a one size fits all. And funnily enough, I used to work in psychiatry because I thought I might want to be a psychodrama therapist at one point. So when I was at uni and in my first year out of uni, I worked in psychiatry with severely mentally ill, secure ward patients. And that has served me very well.
Especially with actors. I can make the link very clearly there.
Going, okay, there's some issues here, let's sort them out. I'm not saying that actors are mentally ill, but I'm saying the sort of little mini psychology and understanding what every individual needs was very useful in terms of my experience in psychiatry.
That is absolutely fascinating. That's brilliant. Yeah, and that's sort of what, in a nutshell, kind of why drama is important as well, isn't it? Because we're, every person is individual. But we all sit under this umbrella of humanity, and we need to explore these things.
For me, well, I like being really honest with an actor. I think it's because when I was an actress, I hated it if people did that whole lovely, lovely, lovely. Yeah, it's great what you're doing, really, really lovely. Try this. I hated that. So I'd always go, tell me what you mean.
Yeah.
What am I not achieving? Just tell me. And so I'm always really open and honest, but I hope in a nice way, in a partnering way, that I'm not patronizing the actor by thinking you can't have some honesty in your experience in the rehearsal room or the shoot or whatever it is, that we should be able to be honest with each other. And just in the same way, I would expect an actor to say to me, that's really not helping me. That note's really making me stuck. Can you find another way of articulating it? And I would go, I'd absolutely be really pleased for an actor to do that, because I think by having that honesty in a room, I'm hopefully saying we're in this together. It's not me telling you what to do. It's us kind of working out a solution together, because you're the person in front of the camera, you're the person on the stage, you're the one that's going to feel vulnerable about it. Much like when I work with namey actors, because in video games, sometimes they employ massive names. So I've directed, wonderful people like Michael Fassbender and John Cleese and Simon Pegg and Naomie Harris and Zoe Wanamaker, and just amazing people. But sometimes when you work with a very namey actor particularly with namey actors on the very first time I work with them, they might really test me, particularly when I was younger, not so much now I look so old, but they sometimes really test me at the beginning, and I'd always think, absolutely go for it, test me, because I want you to feel okay about us working together, and so let me pass the test. I don't think, how outrageous that you're testing me and pushing me on this. I always think, why shouldn't you? Because you are the person that's out there. It's your name there. I'm kind of hidden. I'm hidden behind you.
How would they test you?
Challenging a note, challenging it, sort of to the nth degree, even when I feel that it really is something we need to explore, because it is fundamental to the script that such and such does need to happen. Challenging those sort of notes that you think, well,
no, you are a man in this. You are a man. We can't change that.
Find a way to achieve this. So that sort of challenging of notes, they're kind of swerve balls that are defensive as opposed to productive. So that's often a way, or just being a little bit blocking at first, a bit guarded, and not being prepared to sort of go the distance. But I honestly like it when actors do that, because I know that once I've passed the test, we'll be away. And almost if an actor doesn't test me, I'm like, oh, where's the test? How am I going to know that they're comfortable?
That's great.
And like you were saying about you being direct with an actor and an actor being direct with you, you're both working to the same end. You're collaborating to create a piece of work, and that's one of the things I love about creating something together, is you're all pulling in the same direction, and that's one of the most wonderful things about creating a project or creating a TV show or a piece of theatre or a podcast or whatever. Podcast.
Well, I does say Claire did also say, I know you'll get a thoughtful answer from Kate. She's one of the best directors I've ever worked with.
Oh, that's lovely. It's brilliant.
Yes.
Now, this isn't a question, but Sam Adams messaged and he said, re Kate Saxon, I've played so many of the games she's worked on, all of which had wonderful cinematic sequences. I don't have a question, but wanted to acknowledge how cool this interview is.
There you go.
That's great.
We've got
That's so lovely.
It is lovely. I've got a question from Sue on Twitter, and she says, "Oh, this is exciting. Please say a big thank you to Kate for her wonderful 3 episodes of Endeavour." Heart emoji. Especially the very emotional and beautiful finale. So that's a little thank you. And then she says, "Do you keep in touch with any of the team? You always seem very happy on set." So I don't know if she's ever seen you on set, but maybe seen some pictures and stuff. And
She might be a stalker.
She's probably a stalker. No, she's not. Sue, lovely Sue. And she said, "Do you ever get stressed or overwhelmed as well?"
She probably was on set because on Endeavour, whenever we were on location, there were always Uber fans there. No idea how they knew where we would be, but they were always there. So even the very, very final shot of Endeavour ever in its history that I was filming in Blenheim Palace in the grounds, and there was me under a tree because we had a drone shot and the drone was seeing absolutely everything. So I was under the tree with a monitor, me under the tree with a monitor, and quite a lot of fans. And I said, come on, stand behind me. They were like pushed up against me behind me because I said, you can't be there. I'm catching it in the drone. So all the fans were right there behind the monitor when we took the very first shot. So she probably did genuinely.
Or she could have been a supporting artist, I suppose, at some point or something.
She might have been. I don't think I do really get stressed, you know. I get feisty if I need to. But I don't think I actually get stressed. I think I just think, oh, this is what's needed right now for me to make this thing happen. So that's what I need to do. But I don't think I get stressed. I think I'm pretty chilled. I think, oh God, probably people listening to this going, yeah.
Well, I thought you were very chilled on that hot day when it was started to go a bit, running a bit long.
I think I'm chilled. I kind of I like all the mayhem, so it doesn't stress me. But in terms of answering Sue's other question, yes, I am in touch with the cast and producers and so on still, and I adore them very much. In fact, Sean Evans and I were emailing just a few minutes before the podcast about various other things we're about to go and do together. I don't mean projects, although we are trying to get a theatre project off the ground together. But yes, I am very much in touch with them all and adore them. It was 3 wonderful jobs working on Endeavour.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, that's lovely. One of our favourite listeners, Neil, he says, I was playing Alien Isolation, hiding in a cupboard from the xenomorph and holding my breath both in game and in real life. At that point, my ginger cat jumped onto my lap and I jumped out of my skin and dropped the controller. The alien heard me and it was game over, man. So thanks for that, Kate. It's the only game where I've genuinely felt that I'm being hunted. How did you get the alien to figure out where I was hiding?
I had intel.
Yeah, you really do cover every branch and every person watching.
Yeah, it's quite a lot of gamers have said that to me, that Alien Isolation is the only game that's ever truly terrified them.
Yeah,
we must have done something right on that one, but I don't take credit for that because obviously that's very clever design by the game director and the game designers to really tread that line and get that right. But the performers were wonderful and the performances were great to work on. And that was a lovely one because on Alien Isolation, I felt that all the fights should be done by the actors themselves, not by stunt artists, because they're all real people who happened to be on a spaceship that had an alien invasion like you do. So I worked with a fight director, Kev McCurdy, who's great.
I know Kev.
I worked with him as well.
He was my fight. I went to Royal Welsh College, and there
you go. Yeah, he's always my favourite fight guy with theatre. So I've taken him into Alien Isolation, and we rehearsed the fights with the main cast. And so in the performance capture shoots, they were doing everything, and it was full facial likeness as well. So it meant that the animated characters actually looked like the actors. So that felt a very kind of full and wholesome process. Yeah, I'm glad people find it so terrifying.
Yes. I mean, that's why I don't play things like that, because I've got a good enough imagination as it is. I'm too scared.
I know, I'm terrified of everything. This isn't a question either, but I'm going to mention her because she put something on Twitter, and it's someone we've not heard from before, and she's called Gwyn Penny, and she says, Kate will have. I said, oh, have you got a question? She was like, oh, she will have plenty to answer. Such a very nice lady, always responds.
Yeah, they're lovely. Again, it's an Uber Endeavour fan. I know exactly.
Have you met her? Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah. They were so supportive and were, basically around every corner. You'd dash from one location to another in Oxford and they'd already be there. And I'd be like, how are you here? How are you all here? But there they were. Come rain or shine.
It's amazing.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely.
Lots of people liked the tweet and reposted it. So thank you to all of you who did that, and I hope you're listening to this and Kate's wonderful answers.
I've got a question which is probably a bit daft, but I love Judi Dench. What's she like?
Oh, Judi Dench was wonderful. I did a couple of Bond games and she gave me her M, of course, and she was absolutely wonderful. And I remember in the recording sessions, it was so funny because on the first session, normally when it's the voice recording for a game, it's basically me and the sound engineer, and sometimes an audio producer there from the developer, sometimes a writer from the developer. And then on the first session, when it's somebody really famous like Judi Dench, suddenly there were huge numbers of people. I don't know where they come from. They kind of come out of the woodwork. And that was a case in point. Judi Dench's first session with me, a Goldcrest recording studio called Goldcrest in Soho. There were 17 people there suddenly. And I went around the room and I said, sorry, who are you? Well, somebody would go, well, I'm here to make sure that Judy's happy with her script and if she wants to have a different font size, and I'm here in case she wants a snack, and I'm here. And I said, okay, that's really lovely you're all here. Do you want to just leave the studio and wait in the corridor, and I'll come and get you if Judy needs any of you? And then I turned around and said to Judy, is that all right? Do you want to do that? And she went, yes, please, thank you very much. So I sort of ushered them all out, which I'm sure really annoyed them all. But it was too many people. It was like she had an audience already. She hadn't started yet. And then she was just adorable to work with. Absolutely consummate professional, of course. Everything she did was wonderful. She didn't need notes, didn't need a director at all. And then I would say to her, oh, I'll play you back my selects all the time so that you're happy, so that I know you're happy with what I'm going to select, Judy. And she went, oh, God, please don't. I can't bear to listen to myself act. Oh. Choose. I'll trust you. It'll be fine. So, yeah, she was lovely. She certainly wasn't one of the A-listers that decided to test me first. She was just charming from the word go.
Oh, that's so nice. I just love her. Her, Julie Walters. I mean, they're all the British legends. But dames. Yes, the dames. Yes, the dames.
We love a dame.
We love a dame. There's nothing like a dame.
Oh, well, we need to wrap up because we've had you for an hour, and but I could just chat to you forever because it's absolutely fascinating and it's just so nice. So thank you so much, Kate.
Thank you so much both for asking me, and thank you for the listeners for listening.
You have been listening to Limited Time Only.
Well, thank you so much to Kate Saxon for being our very special guest today. It was so lovely to speak to her. She's brilliant, isn't she?
Oh, she's so lovely. Really fascinating woman, and just so great to hear about how she operates and how she does her job, because she's just very impressive.
She's very cool.
I would say she's
really cool. And I know that there'll be a lot of Endeavour fans out there and computer games fans who will have enjoyed that. So if you've enjoyed it, please do tell everybody to listen to it as well.
Yes, and if you can subscribe to the podcast or leave a review. I mean, we're only interested in good reviews. If you don't like it, just keep it to yourself.
Just don't do it again.
just move on. It's all right.
Move on. It's fine.
It's fine. Just but if you did enjoy it, if you could leave us a review or like and subscribe, whatever, just because that helps more people find us, and we would really like that to happen. We want more people to know about us.
Well, thank you for listening. If you've got this far, and and we will see you in 2 weeks' time. For another episode of Limited Time Only, a pick-me-up in podcast form. Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.
Community Chest.